Welcome to Logos Bible Software Tutorials, and today we're going to dive into Greek. We're going to get into the nominative case. I'm going to show you some resources and how you can find the nominative case as well as to be able to use the software, use your tools to be able to determine how the nominative is functioning. So today we're going to talk about the most popular way the nominative used is it's in the subjective case. So it focuses on the subject. So here are the resources that I use. Of course, I got my ESV up here. I got, pull this up, Basics of Biblical Greek by Will Mounts. I love it. I had it in seminary, and it still is a very useful tool that I often consult when I want to know some things about some very basic things. Of course, you have this resource. Let me bring this back down to done. The staple. This is the older version, and I just like to use this. If you've been a part of my videos for some time, that you just know that I like to use it. I think I'm comfortable. There's no major difference between this. I just find this one easier to search for. So, Greek Grammar Beyond the Basics by the man, B. Wallace. His book I consult over and over and over. This is a newer book going deeper with Greek New Testament and intermediate study of the grammar and syntax of the New Testament. This is by Robert Prummer and Kostenberger. Also Benjamin Merkel. This is becoming my next to do favorite grammar I consult. Some other things here that I got some notes, some stuff I'm going to cover here. Also, the Lexham Discourse Greek New Testament. We're going to use this a lot. If you don't have it, I say get it because I use that a lot with my study. I use it a lot. Here's another one. I don't know if you still can, but there was a set that I had bought. This is a wonderful set. So what this is here is the Lexham Syntactical Greek New Testament, SBL edition, expansions and notations. What they did here is they took every phrase in the New Testament and tagged it. It's a very helpful tool if you are going to diagram. And we have a visual filter here. So this filter finds a nominative and a verb. So let me show you. It's finding the noun and just the nominative. I was not interested in anything but the nominative. And for the verb, and all I care is that it is a indicative. Because 9 times out of 10, that how you're going to find the nominative and its associated verb is with the indicative verb. I don't care if it's active, passive, I don't care about any of this. All I care is that it's indicative. So that is what we have. I'm going to open up this grammar here because this is going to help us understand a little bit of the nominative case. So if you go to Bill Mounts' book, Greek, in chapter 6, this is the second edition, or it may be the third, but he's got a wonderful explanation of the nominative case. So he goes in here. Let's kind of go on here. That the nominative case is the case that the subject is in. When the subject takes an equative verb, so it's something like is, are, was, were, the verb equates to something else in the subject. So this is the way that we're going to search today, is finding the subject of the sentence. I know it talks about the predicate nominative. We are not going to address that right now. We are going to address it just in the subject, and later on that we would get into the predicate nominative. He makes a statement down here I want to talk about. He says, since word order in Greek is quite flexible, it is used for an emphasis rather than for strict grammatical function. Other means are used to distinguish the subject from the predicate nominative. For example, if one of the two nouns has a definite article, it is the subject. So what he's saying here is Greek does not really have a definitive word. It shifts word order, he says, because of emphasis. This is the same thing that Stephen Runge says in his grammar about Greek, that the word order, whenever it changes, it's because of emphasis. And we're going to get into seeing different occasions wherever that the definite article is used, and when it's used, when the nominative is almost out of place, as well as when a nominative is used and it doesn't have to be. And we're going to look at that. And what I mean by that is Greek has embedded in it both the noun and the verb. He, she, it are all part of the verb, and whenever another noun is used, it's often used for emphasis to highlight a certain aspect. And we're going to see that in some of these passages where there is no nominative and the subject is in the verb. And then we're going to see some cases where that the nominative is alongside of a verb, and whenever that occurs, that there is a point of emphasis that the author is trying to make. Now we're going to come to this book right here and what it says about the nominative and the subject. He says this. This is Plummer, Merkel, and Kostenberg. That the nominative, this part right here is all I want us to pay attention to. So we're going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it well. The nominative is frequently the grammatical subject of the clause. It's what we most commonly, noun in the nominative case is the subject of the finite verb. Normally, this verb is explicitly stated, though at times it is merely implied. And we're going to look at some passages where that the verb is implied, and that's what's called as a verbless clause. And when that occurs, there's some special conditions the author is trying to make. The nominative can be the subject of an active, passive, or middle verb. If active, the subject performs the action. If passive, the subject is being acted upon by an agent. If middle, the subject is acting upon itself or on its own behalf. Emphasis is put on the subject. The subject can be a noun with or without the article, or an adjective, a pronoun, or even a whole noun phrase, such as a relative clause. I want to talk about the middle. So one of the nuances of the middle voice is that I receive some benefit from the action. So another way is that it really brings out that it acts upon itself or it's on its own behalf. So that is kind of what that means, is that there's something I get from it. So it can also be what's called as reflexive. So when I do it in a reflexive sense, that I'm doing back. So, for example, the phrase, I love myself. There's some benefit that I get from loving myself. Next, we're going to go into Wallace and what he has to say about it. The substantive, let me increase this a bit to really help us on that. The substantive in the nominative case is frequently the subject of a finite verb. The verb may be explicit, stated, or implied. Conversely, the subject may be implied, embedded, as it were, in the verb. And that's kind of what I was talking about, that the subject may be embedded into the verb. And there are occasions where I have a subject along a verb and I don't need it. And when that happens, it's often for emphasis. So in this verb here, herkentai, means that he comes. If I was to say, if I was to have a noun that would be he, then that there would be an emphasis there. The relation of the subject to the action of the verb is largely determined by the voice of the verb. If the voice is active, the subject does the acting. If it's passive, the subject is acted upon. The law was given. If middle, the subject acts on itself or stress is placed on the subject. Let's look at some passages and just go. We're going to look at John 3:16. So we have John 3:16 pulled out here. We're going to shift this over a bit and really hopefully show you. So in John 3:16, what we're going to also do, I'm going to show my filter here because I already made this filter. And when we look over my filter over here, the red is those in the nominative. The blue is my verbs. So we're going to come over here, and so this right here is the verb. Now, this right here is a definite article. Another resource I use and I pull up is this biblical Greek reference. It's very useful as if you do not have it memorized, what the verbs or that the case endings. So here are the case endings. I have all of the case endings here. So I have the nominative case endings. So for the masculine singular, it's this sigma. Feminine singular is nothing. Nominative singular is either going to be the VV here, which is pronounced N, or nothing. Masculine plural is either going to end with a iota or ace, es. Feminine plural is either going to end in a iota or ace. Nominative plural is either going to have an a. Here are the definite articles: ho, he, to, oi, I, ta. Now, we see here that this is the nominative definite article. And if I right click, it shows me right here, and it says that the article, and this right here, if I hover, it says article, nominative, singular, masculine. Now, when I'm over here, I really got to go into my I'm the interlinear. So when I click on God, and let me just explain here. So it's the same thing that we have over here. Oh, and I'm not that. And these numbers here represent the number count. So this is 4. So here's the first word, the second word, third word, fourth, fifth. This tells you the word count. So here's the subject. God is the subject, and he loved. So here, God is, since this is an active, God is acting upon the world here. So he loves the world. The object of his love is the world. And here God is functioning as the subject of the sentence. Next, let's go to John 1. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and I want to click on the tools for link set. That's not what I wanted. I want my link set, and I want them to be linked to each other on A. So when I go into one, I also go into the other. Let's also make, that's all I need to do. So next, we're going to go into John 1:15. John 1:15. So it's saying John here is the verb in the, John is in the nominative case, and bore is my verb. So John, aionios, it's a Greek word, aionios. And this is your subject. Here is our verb. So let's check out the verb. So the verb is present, active, and indicative. So this is, John is performing this action. He testified about him and cried out saying. So here that it doesn't have a object or a direct object, which was different than our previous text. Now let's go to Matthew 3:13, and we're just looking at this so that we use the filters to help us. So here it also, if I come down here, noun, nominative, singular, masculine. Next, we're going to go in Matthew 3:13. There is no nominative here. It's saying that this is we see here from the sigma here, but it did not tag it here. So the sigma here is that since this is more of an adjective, it's not going to bring it up. It says no one has ascended. So and sometimes it's not going like there is no in here that the subject would be embedded into the verb. So this is third person singular he. So it's saying no one has ascended. The third person singular would be, it's implied as he. No individual person has ascended here. Let's go into a passage, Hebrews 11:8. Let's go into Hebrews 11:8, and so by faith, Abraham obeyed. So here is Abraham, and you might be asking me, well, that it doesn't have a sigma. Well, the reason is a lot of proper names don't. So if you ever see a proper name, that's going to be the subject of the sentence. So that's why this is in the nominative case. So here that the verb, so this one right here, this is actually in what's called as the dative case. So although it's tagged here as a verb, it's actually not. This is the verb right here, the aorist active indicative. So, and here is Abraham is doing the action here. Abraham obeyed because it has not tagged it. It's just my cursor was. So the Abraham obeyed, and you see that it's highlighted. I have my subject, I have my verb, the action that Abraham is displaying. So we have Acts. Next, we're going to go into Acts 1. Acts 1:7. It's this part right here when it talks about the Father. So he said to him, it's not for you to know the times that the Father. Now, this right here, since there is a definite article in front of pater, this is the subject of the sentence. So not all nominatives generally, yes, a nominative is going to end with a sigma, just not all the time. And the verb here is the aorist middle indicative. Now the middle voice acts upon itself. So here that the Father has acted in such a way that, and this is the reflection part, by his own authority. So when we come over here, which brings here, so in the middle, the subject acts upon itself or on its own behalf. So that is what this is bringing up. God acts by his own authority, not anybody else's. So this is what is being carried out by this middle voice here, hatheto, from the word tithemi, which is this thing. He has set out, so he has put things in place by his own authority. Let's go into Ephesians 5:23. So as you're seeing, the visual filter can help us to identify the nominative as a subject and how it is functioning in that sentence. Next, we're going to go to Ephesians 5:23. This would be so both the husband as well as the head are in the nominative case. And they are both identifying the same thing. This is gonna, the husband is the head, so for the husband is the head. Both of these, this is functioning more into the predicate nominative, and we're going to get into that. I did not want to get into it now, but where, very briefly, that the predicate nominative, the major difference between the subject and the predicate nominative is so where one equals the other in the predicate nominative, it is a subset of the subject. The best one who brings that out is Bill Mounds. He's got this nice little graphic here. So I didn't want to get up, but since it's in our passage, I'm going to address it. So here, the subject equals. So it can function in two ways. Either the subject equals that the predicate nominative. So this would be the same thing. So this is how our passage is functioning in. So in our passage, that the husband equals the head. Now the other way would be it as a subset of the husband, and it's a little bit different. But the example here, John is a man is John. So the idea is that those are interchangeably. So the big difference here is that the predicate nominative is a subset, whereas in the convertible position that they equal one another and are more equated. We're going to get this into later on, but when we come into here, subject. And here's the verb. So the subject is here, and this is the verb. And once again, it's the case. Context is always going to determine. So if you get using the visual filters is going to help you tremendously. And the reason for an error is, although it doesn't end in a sigma, that because the husband is always referring to that the husband here would be the subject of the sentence. I hope that was helpful. I hope that helps you to understand what's going on here. And I'll come back next week with more stuff on the nominative case. But next week, I'll get into some other ways that the nominative case can function. You have a wonderful day.